This is 7 News.
Tonight, Queensland's flood disaster. 10 dead, 78 listed as missing. Towns washed away by a wall of water. Now Brisbane is facing its toughest test in decades. And at home, WA's fire heartache. 9 homes destroyed or badly damaged in an arson attack.
From the studios of 7 Perth, Susannah Carr.
Good evening, Susannah Carr with you for this special edition of 7 News. Soon we'll have the latest live from Lake Clifton, where an arson attack has destroyed or damaged 9 homes and left a small community seething. But we start in Queensland, where it's been a bitter and tragic day. It's in the grip of disaster. Lives and homes have been washed away by once-in-a-100-year rains. A short time ago, the death toll rose to 10, the latest victim, a 4-year-old boy. Another 78 people are missing. Police say they hold grave fears for 15 of those. Brisbane is bracing for record floods. We'll have a live report from Jeff Parry in the Queensland capital soon. Ipswich is also under threat. The river there is expected to come close to its peak overnight, and the town is preparing for evacuations. 3/4 of Queensland has been declared a disaster zone, and sadly, it's not over yet. Jessica van der Ende begins our coverage.
Queensland awash. Anyone caught in this raging waterfall didn't stand a chance. Dozens of cars swept away, homes too. Rescuers haven't been able to reach them to see what nightmare could be inside. Forced to give up the search for survivors in some parts entirely.
A few of the neighbours are gone, and it's not over yet. There's more coming.
We're hearing about more and more people dying.
The death toll is certain to rise, the damage bill too big to contemplate.
Hundreds of thousands. Lost a car out the back, nearly lost my mum, so...
It's still too dangerous for many to go home. Those that can don't have much to return to.
There were cars floating down here. Petrol bowsers went down 70, 80 metres down the road.
How's everyone going to survive? They can't get to work, so there's nothing.
It was literally minutes. We watched it rising. I rang 000, and by the time I'd hung up, we had to go.
The Lockyer Valley town of Grantham is no more. 400 people, 120 homes, almost total devastation. Help did come, but too late for some. At least 4 people died here.
The past few days have been very harrowing indeed, and that there are still more dark days ahead.
More are still waiting on their roofs for a second night.
What this current bad weather is doing is hampering our search and rescue efforts, particularly into that Lockyer Valley area where we know we have people stranded in dire and critical circumstances.
Pets, livestock and best mates stranded too.
I haven't seen their heads come up, and I tried to get down there as quick as I could, and I got 4 out and I couldn't get the last 2 out.
The Grantham Hotel is now marooned on what was the main street. In an instant, homes went from precarious to under. Even when the water recedes, it leaves its mark. Furniture on the roof. Locals are calling it mad water. Emergency chiefs even more blunt.
Perhaps best be described as an inland instant tsunami.
An 8-metre wall of water hit Toowoomba, then rushed Murphy's Creek, Heladon, Gatton, Glenore Grove with ferocious force. Men, women, children forced to cling to whatever they could. Tonight, the fate of many is still unknown. These 3 were last seen clinging to the roof. Time rescued. There's still...
Jeff Parry is in Brisbane tonight, and the city is bracing for the wall of water that's already hit so many towns. Hello, Jeff. Emergency officials are saying that dozens of suburbs could go underwater.
Yeah, more than dozens, Susannah. It's quiet now. The rain has stopped. It's been pelting all day, but it's eased off at the moment. But I've been watching this river behind me all day. It's certainly rising, but it's the big wall of water that's going to hit tomorrow, and in particular on Thursday, that's going to do all the devastation. A big tide tomorrow of about 3.5 metres. On Thursday, it's going to go more than 5.5 metres. That's bigger than the 1974 flood. 12 hours ago, they were talking about 30 suburbs. 5,000 or 6,000 homes. Now they're talking about 80 low-lying suburbs, 9,000 homes, many thousands more homes will also feel the effects of this. So it's a big worrying couple of days and several days ahead for people of Brisbane, Susannah.
Jeff, what are you hearing about the other towns that might be hit hard tonight?
Well, Ipswich got a hammering today. It's likely to get the same tomorrow. The Bremer River, which runs through there and incidentally is feeding into Brisbane River, which is causing some of the problems down here. That's they started evacuations there. They've got 500 in an evacuation centre, but they're expecting 3,000. Dolby, out in the west, Goondiwindi is another town that's got smacked and is likely to get hit by flash flooding again. So they're going to have to put up with it. Here in Brisbane, Susannah, they're taking immediate action. They've started turning off parts of the CBD to electricity, and by 7 o'clock there'll be no power to the CBD, nothing at all. They've shut the whole thing down because they expect that dozens of substations will all be inundated with water, and as they say here, electricity and water doesn't mix. Susannah?
Thanks very much, Jeff. In the words of Premier Anna Bligh, Queenslanders are facing their toughest test in decades. Here's what the Premier had to say at the latest emergency briefing just a short time ago.
Unfortunately, we have seen the death toll rise again from 9 to 10, with the tragic death of a 4-year-old boy swept away by floodwaters this afternoon at Marburg. The best advice we have at this stage is that this boy's life was lost during an attempt to rescue him and his family. Equally, I'm very disappointed that we've seen the number of people now reported missing rise to 78. Clearly, as we get more information from families who are looking for their loved ones, these numbers are going to fluctuate. But we now have 78 people unaccounted for, we have 10 deaths, and we have at least 18 people for whom we hold very grave concerns for their safety. We know that we've seen Queenslanders in dire and awful circumstances throughout the last 24 hours. We know that over the next couple of days, many of us are going to be in frightening circumstances. Our emergency services personnel are ready to assist, but they need our cooperation. They need us to pull together as a community. If we're all sensible, if we're all calm, and if we all pull together, then I am absolutely confident that we are here in Ipswich and Brisbane absolutely up to the challenge that we will face in the next couple of days.
Authorities in Queensland have warned tomorrow will be bad, Thursday even worse, devastating, as the state reels from the floods of the past 24 hours. Ipswich and Brisbane are tonight the focus of desperate preparations. 7 reporter Michael Best is in Ipswich tonight. And Michael, the river there is expected to come close to peak tonight. What's the situation there now?
Well, the situation is, Susannah, that thousands of people have been evacuated from their homes. There are 5 evacuation centres set up across the city, and they're basically people trying to get out while they can, with as much as they can take. The Bremer River here is rising very quickly. In one street I was in this afternoon, it came up more than a metre in just 20 minutes, and we saw scenes of people wading through floodwaters trying to get out what treasured possessions they have left before everything is swamped. Michael, is Ipswich ready for what's coming? Look, they're as ready as they can be. Many residents say they didn't have much notice, only a few hours. In a sense, this wall of water that came down yesterday from the Toowoomba Range, which is flowing into the Bremer, has taken everyone a little by surprise. There are 5 evacuation centres set up across the city, as I said before, and more than 1,000 people in those centres. But, they're trying to be as prepared as they can be, and preparing for worse tomorrow. That's now expected to peak about 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, and up to a third of the city, the Mayor is saying, could be underwater.
Thanks, Michael. Michael Best in Ipswich. Ipswich has had time to prepare, if that's even possible, for a disaster of this magnitude. But other towns have had little or no warning. The rushing tide was dubbed an instant inland tsunami after first catching Toowoomba unawares.
Where do you start cleaning up after this? Heavy lounge suites were tossed around the streets like toys. This building had a wall torn off, someone's home. Dozens of cars were carried away by the raging torrent.
The buildings are all out, all the furniture is in the middle of the road. This is the worst we've ever seen it.
This is what they witnessed when an 8-metre wall of water smashed through the centre of town.
Oh no, look!
Breaking the doors at Neo Tokyo.
All they could do was watch. An unbelievable spectacle for those not caught up in it. From the safety of his second-floor office, a worker called Dave captured the rising water along Chalk Lane.
I'm so glad I parked at the front today. That's coming fast.
This is what it usually looks like. Within minutes, the first cars are washed away.
Oh my goodness.
Suddenly, Dave spots a man trying to save his four-wheel drive.
Oh mate, don't, just let it go.
This is where they ended up. Piled one on top of the other. No match for Mother Nature's fury. It was a scene repeated across Toowoomba. 4 people died in Toowoomba, including a mother and child. The search continues for more victims. Pippa Gardner, 7 News.
Many of the 78 still missing are feared drowned in Murphy's Creek, where locals have told of seeing their neighbours disappear.
Without warning, the wall of water tore through the tiny community of Murphy's Creek. Residents scrambled to the only piece of dry land available, their roofs. Police have confirmed 2 locals, a middle-aged man and a young man, were killed when their home was washed away. Barry Bull and his daughter escaped with just seconds to spare.
We raced up onto the second story, and then I climbed up into the ceiling and punched a hole through the gable at the end of the roof. And while I was doing that, everything else was disappearing, and we thought we were gone.
All that's left of some neighbouring homes are the foundations they were built on. Beds and unrecognisable pieces of wreckage are wrapped around trees. Drains are a mess of brickwork, pieces of people's homes and lives in the gutter. Neil Warren, 7 News.
And Basil joins me again now with today's sport. Baz.
Thanks, Sue. Yes, one of our Warriors has missed out on a spot in the Aussie one-day squad. It's a strange selection. That's coming up, plus the Socceroos on target. A Tim Cahill double gets the ball rolling.
Timmy Cahill again. Who else?
And believe it or not, they'll be playing football here in 5 weeks.